The recording studio was enormous, filled with expensive equipment, polished surfaces, and walls lined with gold and platinum records. The lights were bright, reflecting off the glass panels that separated rooms where sound engineers worked tirelessly, adjusting knobs and sliders with precise movements. Music filled every corner, blending the hum of computers, the faint buzz of microphones, and the occasional thump of bass from a track being tested. It was a place where dreams were made, where melodies were turned into hits that people around the world would soon hear. Yet among all this wealth and noise moved someone who was usually invisible in this environment. A cleaner who quietly navigated the studio halls, a broom in her hand and a dust cloth tucked under her arm. She was not just a cleaner in the sense of keeping things tidy. She had a natural rhythm to her movements, almost like she danced while working. Her name didn't matter much to the people around her. She was just part of the background, someone who kept the studio looking presentable so that the producer and his famous clients could focus on their music without worrying about dust or spills. Every day she arrived early, putting on her worn uniform, tying her hair back neatly and moving with careful efficiency. She liked to work quietly, humming softly to herself as she swept floors and wiped counters. Music was her companion, and it made the hours pass faster. On this particular afternoon, the studio was buzzing more than usual. The producer was preparing for a new session, one that could be a breakthrough hit. His team of assistants hurried back and forth, adjusting microphones, reviewing song notes, and testing instruments. The cleaner moved around them with her mop, trying not to interrupt, but she couldn't help being drawn to the music. She hummed a melody she had heard earlier in the day, tapping the mop handle lightly on the floor to keep time. It was simple, almost childish, but there was something honest in it. The tune lingered in the air, blending with the sounds from the studio. From across the room, the producer noticed her. He was a man used to being in control, used to people admiring him and his work. His sharp eyes took in the scene, the cleaner humming a tune, moving her body slightly in rhythm with the music. He smirked, finding the sight amusing. It wasn't the kind of talent he usually respected. In fact, he thought it was almost laughable. He called over one of his assistants and whispered something, a small smile curling on his lips. The assistant glanced at the cleaner and stifled a laugh. The producer shook his head, muttering under his breath about people who thought they had talent but really didn't. The cleaner felt the shift immediately. She had been unaware that anyone had noticed her. The smirk, the whispered comment, the quiet chuckle from the assistant, it all made her pause. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. She lowered her eyes and continued her work, trying to make herself small, trying to disappear into the background. It was a familiar feeling, one she had experienced many times in her life. People often underestimated her, dismissed her, or laughed at her in subtle ways. She had learned to ignore it, to keep moving forward quietly, and to find small joys in the work she could do well. But there was also a spark inside her, a stubborn flicker that refused to be silenced. As she moved to the next area, she hummed the melody again, more softly this time, to herself. She remembered the tune she had created in her mind, the way it made her feel light and hopeful. Even if no one else cared, she cared, and that was enough. She let the broom tap lightly on the floor, imagining the rhythm turning into something bigger, something that could grow into a real song one day. The thought made her smile quietly, a small secret she kept to herself. The producer watched her from a distance, still amused, still slightly dismissive, but a part of him was curious. It was strange how someone so unnoticed could make a sound that lingered in the air. He was used to discovering talent in professional settings, in auditions, in controlled environments where singers and musicians performed for him. He had never expected to hear anything remarkable from someone sweeping the floor, someone whose job was not to create music, but to clean up after others. Yet there was something there, a faint thread of melody that caught his attention. He shook his head and returned to his work, but the thought stayed with him. Throughout the day, he found himself glancing in her direction when he thought no one was watching. She continued her work, moving through the studio with quiet determination. Her humming was barely audible, but it seemed to float through the air, a gentle counterpoint to the complex sounds of the studio. The producer couldn't quite place it, but there was something familiar in it, something that reminded him of why he had fallen in love with music in the first place, the simple joy of creating something that made the heart stir. Later that evening, The studio began to empty. The assistants packed up equipment, musicians left with their instruments, and the cleaning staff began their routine tasks. The cleaner found herself alone in one of the large recording rooms. She wiped down a keyboard, straightened chairs, and swept the floor. Her thoughts drifted to the melody she had hummed earlier, and without thinking she began to sing softly, her voice blending with the fading echoes of the day's music. It was not polished or rehearsed, but it was heartfelt, raw, and honest. She sang as if no one could hear her, as if the song belonged only to her. The producer, still in his office, heard the sound. He stopped what he was doing and listened. The voice was untrained but powerful, filled with emotion that no studio production could replicate. He leaned forward, straining to hear better, his amusement fading. The mocking thoughts he had earlier were replaced by surprise, curiosity, and something he hadn't felt in a long time, a spark of genuine interest. He didn't move at first, unsure if he should intrude, but he couldn't ignore the sound. It was unlike anything he had expected to hear a few days after that evening. The producer found himself thinking about the cleaner and her song more than he wanted to admit. The memory of her voice lingered in his mind like a melody that refused to fade. He had been harsh, dismissive, and mocking at first, but now he couldn't get the sound of her raw emotion out of his head. Something about it had touched him, something honest and real that the polished voices of professional singers often lacked. He realized that he needed to see her again, to hear her sing properly and to understand the depth of her talent. He waited until the studio was quiet one afternoon, and then approached her. She was busy sweeping one of the smaller rooms, her back slightly bent as she moved with steady rhythm. The producer cleared his throat, causing her to jump slightly, a mop still in her hands. She looked up, her expression cautious, unsure what he wanted. He had mocked her before, but now his tone was different, more sincere, less condescending. He explained that he had heard her sing that night and that he wanted to give her a chance to perform for him in a proper setting. Her eyes widened with disbelief. She had always imagined music as something distant, something for other people, not for someone like her. She hesitated, her mind racing with doubt. Could she really do it? Could she sing in front of someone so influential and experienced? She had never considered herself a performer, only a dreamer humming while she worked. The producer noticed her hesitation and gave her a gentle smile. He told her there was no pressure, that she could take her time and just let her voice flow naturally. He led her to a small empty recording room. The walls were lined with foam to absorb sound, and a microphone stood in the center with a simple stand. The equipment was intimidating, but there was also a sense of safety in the quiet, controlled environment. It was a place where music could be heard in its purest form, where her voice could shine without distraction. She stepped up to the microphone, her hands trembling slightly. The producer stood a few feet away, giving her space but ready to guide her if needed. She took a deep breath, thinking about the melodies she had hummed while cleaning, the songs she had created in her mind during quiet moments. She closed her eyes and let the first notes escape her lips. At first, her voice was tentative, fragile, as if testing the space, testing herself. But then something shifted. The rhythm in her heart matched the rhythm of the music in the room, and she began to sing with a freedom she had never felt before. The producer watched in awe as her voice transformed the room. It was not perfect, not polished like a trained singer, but it was alive with feeling, with sincerity, with the struggles and joys that had shaped her. Each note carried a story, each pause a depth of emotion. He realized that talent was not just about technical skill, but about the ability to touch hearts, to make people feel something real. And in that moment, she was doing exactly that. She sang a song she had made up herself, a melody that grew from the simple hums she had practiced while cleaning. The words were her own, the rhythm natural, the emotion raw. The producer could feel it in his chest, a wave of emotion that he had rarely experienced in his career. For years, he had been surrounded by professional musicians, producers, and singers, all striving for perfection. But this was different. This was truth, authenticity, and passion poured into music without filters or fear. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. The room seemed to hold its breath as if even the walls were listening. The producer finally spoke, his voice filled with a mixture of surprise and admiration. He told her that what she had just done was extraordinary, that he had rarely heard anything so honest in all his years in the music industry. She looked at him wide-eyed, unable to fully believe his words. She had spent so long doubting herself, thinking her dreams were too far-fetched, too impossible. And now someone she respected, someone influential, was telling her she had real talent. He offered her the chance to record professionally, to work on her songs with him, to take her talent to a level she had never imagined. Weeks turned into months as the cleaner continued working with the producer. Every day brought new lessons, new challenges, and new triumphs. The studio, once a place where she moved quietly in the background, had become her second home. She arrived early, eager to learn, and often stayed late, practicing melodies and perfecting the emotions she wanted to convey through her songs. The producer guided her patiently, explaining the nuances of voice control, rhythm, and timing. He showed her how to use the recording equipment, how to listen critically to playback, and how to adjust her performance to connect with listeners. Each session strengthened her skills and her confidence. Her life outside the studio remained simple. She still performed cleaning duties and managed the small apartment she had always called home. Yet a transformation was visible in her demeanor. She carried herself with a quiet pride, a sense of purpose that was new to her. People around her began to notice the change, seeing in her a spark that had never been there before. It wasn't just her voice that had changed. It was her confidence, her presence, the way she approached every task, whether it was in the studio or at home. The producer also began to see changes within himself. He had spent years in the music industry surrounded by polished performers and ambitious artists, yet few had moved him the way she did. He realized that it was not talent alone that mattered, but authenticity, resilience, and the willingness to embrace vulnerability. Her journey reminded him why he had fallen in love with music in the first place: the ability to convey real emotion, to tell stories that touched hearts, and to inspire others. Working with her reignited his own passion and creativity. As her skills developed, they began experimenting with original songs. She wrote lyrics inspired by her own experiences, weaving in moments of struggle, hope, and joy. The producer helped her refine them, suggesting changes that enhanced the flow or emotional impact without taking away her unique voice. They spent hours exploring melodies, harmonies, and arrangements, testing different instruments and recording techniques. The studio, once a place of routine work, had become a creative playground where ideas flowed freely, and every session held the possibility of something extraordinary. The cleaner, now a singer in the making, found herself inspired by the process. She had never imagined that her life could take this turn. The melodies she once hummed alone were now being developed into songs that could reach a wide audience. The producer encouraged her to explore her creativity fully, to take risks, and to be unapologetically herself. He reminded her that her authenticity was her strength, and that it would resonate more deeply with listeners than any technical perfection ever could. One day, after a particularly long recording session, they sat together in the studio, listening to a playback of one of her new songs. She leaned back in her chair, exhausted but exhilarated as the sound of her own voice filled the room. The song was beautiful, filled with emotion and truth. She closed her eyes, letting the music wash over her, feeling a sense of accomplishment she had never experienced before. The producer watched her quietly, impressed by how far she had come and proud to have played a part in her journey. Their work together began to draw attention. Small industry contacts and local musicians who heard her recordings were impressed by her voice and authenticity. The PR her music had started to reach people all over the country. From the small apartment where she had once lived quietly, humming melodies while cleaning, she was now touching lives with her voice. Every comment, every message of encouragement reminded her of how far she had come. People wrote to her saying that her songs gave them hope, that her story inspired them to believe in their own dreams. She never imagined that her life could have such an impact, that her voice could carry so much meaning. The producer watched her journey with pride. He had seen the transformation firsthand, from the shy cleaner who hummed quietly in empty rooms to the confident artist performing with emotion and skill. He reflected on his own growth, realizing that he had learned as much from her as she had from him. He had once dismissed her, underestimated her, and yet she had shown him the power of authenticity and determination. Their collaboration had changed both of their lives, and he felt gratitude for the experience. As her songs gained popularity, she began receiving invitations to perform in small venues and on local shows. She was nervous but excited. Standing on a stage for the first time, microphone in hand, She felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The lights were bright and the audience was expectant, but as she took a deep breath and began to sing, all her nerves melted away. Her voice carried the emotions of her journey, the struggles and victories, and the audience could feel it. People were moved by her honesty, her story, and the beauty of her music. With each performance, her confidence grew. She learned to connect with her audience, to tell stories through her songs, and to embrace the power of her own voice. The producer often accompanied her, offering support and guidance, ensuring that she felt comfortable and prepared. He marveled at how quickly she adapted, how she embraced every challenge with determination, and how she stayed true to herself despite the pressures of growing fame. The cleaner's story began to attract media attention. Interviews, features, and articles highlighted her journey from humble beginnings to musical success. She spoke openly about her past, the challenges she had faced, and the role the producer had played in helping her realize her potential. Audiences were captivated by her authenticity, by the fact that someone who had started as a cleaner could now inspire others through music. She became a symbol of hope for people who had been overlooked or underestimated. As her career progressed, she released more songs, each one reflecting her experiences, her emotions, and her growth. The music resonated with listeners, creating a connection that went beyond entertainment. Her songs spoke of perseverance, of believing in oneself, and of finding beauty in unexpected places. The producer continued to mentor her, helping her refine her craft, explore new styles, and develop her artistry further. Together, they were creating music that was meaningful, heartfelt, and impactful. She never forgot her beginnings. Even as she gained recognition, she continued to work with humility and gratitude. She remembered the quiet moments in the studio, the long hours spent practicing melodies alone, and the courage it had taken to step into the unknown. These memories grounded her, reminding her of why she started and why it was important to stay true to herself. Her authenticity remained at the heart of her music, and audiences felt that honesty in every performance. The producer, too, found a renewed sense of purpose. He had learned to value talent wherever it was found, to recognize potential beyond appearances, and to appreciate the human stories behind every voice. Working with her had reminded him of the power of mentorship, the importance of encouragement, and the profound impact one person could have on another's life. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that he had played a part in helping her achieve her dreams and that their collaboration had created something extraordinary. As she performed on bigger stages, her confidence and presence grew stronger. She embraced each opportunity with grace and determination, connecting with her audience in a way that few performers could. Her music became a voice for those who had been overlooked, a reminder that talent and perseverance could overcome obstacles. She inspired others to pursue their dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed, and her story became a beacon of hope. The studio where it all began became a place of celebration. She returned there often, not just to record music, but to remember the journey and the moments that had shaped her. The producer watched her with pride, seeing the person she had become and the impact she was making on the world. He realized that their journey was about more than just music. It was about human connection, trust, and the transformative power of belief in another person. Over time, she began mentoring others, sharing her experiences and encouraging aspiring artists who faced challenges similar to those she had overcome. She spoke about the importance of perseverance, self-belief, and staying authentic. She wanted others to understand that talent could be found in unexpected places, and that with guidance, patience, and courage, anyone could achieve their dreams. Her story became a source of inspiration, a reminder that humble beginnings did not limit the potential for greatness. The producer reflected on how much he had learned from her journey. He realized that his initial mockery had been short-sighted, and that his willingness to listen, guide, and believe in her had made a profound difference. He had seen how one person's belief in another could change a life, how encouragement could unlock hidden potential, and how authenticity could create a connection that resonated far beyond the walls of a studio. Their collaboration was a testament to the power of human kindness, mentorship, and respect. As the cleaner's music continued to reach new audiences, she remained true to her roots. She continued to write from her heart, to sing with emotion, and to share her story honestly. Her journey from humble beginnings to musical success served as a reminder that talent could come from anywhere, that determination and courage could overcome obstacles, and that kindness and belief in others could transform lives. She had changed the producer's perspective, inspired countless listeners, and discovered her own strength and voice in the process. Her story concluded not with an end, but with a beginning of new opportunities, continued growth, and the ongoing power of music to touch hearts. The producer stood by her side, proud of the journey they had shared and grateful for the lessons they had learned together. The humble cleaner who had once hummed quietly while working had transformed into a remarkable artist, and her journey had forever changed the lives of those who witnessed it, proving that talent, courage, and authenticity could truly change the world. The next morning, the cleaner arrived at the studio earlier than usual. The sunlight spilled through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors. She moved quietly, wiping down surfaces and organizing supplies, her mind replaying the events of the previous evening. The memory of the producer's reaction, the way he had listened in awe to her voice, stayed with her. She felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today, he had asked her to perform properly in the studio, and the thought both thrilled and intimidated her. As she entered the recording room, the producer was already there, adjusting the microphone and setting up the equipment. He greeted her with a warm smile, his tone different from the day he had mocked her. She noticed the kindness in his eyes, the patience in the way he spoke. He encouraged her to take her time, to let her voice flow naturally, and assured her that there was no pressure. His words eased some of her anxiety, and she nodded, trying to steady her racing heart. She took a deep breath and approached the microphone. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the equipment. She closed her eyes and began to sing. At first, her voice was hesitant, fragile, as if testing the space and the sound. But soon the melody she had carried in her heart for so long began to take shape. The notes flowed, simple yet powerful, and the emotions she had bottled up over the years poured out. Each word, each pause told a story of struggle, hope, and quiet perseverance. The producer listened intently, amazed at how effortlessly her voice filled the room. It was untrained, raw, and imperfect in a way that made it real and relatable. He realized that this was more than just talent, it was authenticity. Every note carried a piece of her soul, a reflection of her life, and he was captivated. He had spent years in the industry hearing polished voices, but none had moved him like this. He felt a surge of respect and admiration, understanding that he had underestimated her before. After she finished the first song, there was a moment of silence. The producer applauded softly, careful not to startle her. He praised her for the emotion she conveyed, the honesty in her performance, and the way she made the melody her own. She felt a warm rush of pride, mixed with relief that he had appreciated her efforts. For so long, she had doubted herself, thinking that her dreams of singing professionally were impossible. Now, hearing his encouragement, she felt a glimmer of possibility. They spent the next few hours working on refining the song. The producer guided her on how to control her breath, how to project her voice without strain, and how to emphasize certain words for emotional impact. He showed her how to use the microphone properly, explaining the technical aspects without overwhelming her. She absorbed every piece of advice, eager to learn and improve. The process was challenging, but she felt a sense of accomplishment with each small improvement. As they continued, she discovered a rhythm and confidence she hadn't known she possessed. Her voice became stronger, more expressive, and the melody began to shine in ways she had only imagined. The producer watched her transformation with fascination. He had thought he was simply guiding a novice, but he quickly realized that she had a natural gift, a spark that could not be taught. All she needed was encouragement and opportunity. Throughout the day, they experimented with different styles and arrangements. The cleaner tried soft, slow passages, then more powerful, emotional moments. The producer suggested harmonies, layering, and small adjustments to enhance the overall sound. She listened carefully, implementing his feedback while keeping her voice authentic. Each take built on the last, and by the end of the day, they had created a version of the song that was vibrant, emotional, and full of life. During breaks, they talked about her life, her love for music, and the challenges she had faced. She shared stories of her childhood, her dreams, and the quiet moments of joy she found in singing while working. The producer listened attentively, realizing that her experiences were what made her music so compelling. He encouraged her to continue drawing from her life, to let her emotions guide her songs, and to trust that her story would resonate with others. By the afternoon, The cleaner began to feel more comfortable in the studio. She moved with ease, humming melodies as she worked on the song, experimenting with variations and exploring her vocal range. The producer admired her dedication and persistence. He had seen many talented singers in his career, but few displayed such passion and authenticity. She reminded him why he had fallen in love with music, the ability to convey truth and emotion, to tell a story through sound. As the session came to a close, they listened to the final recording. The cleaner's eyes were wide with disbelief and pride. She had created something real, something that reflected her heart and soul. The producer smiled, telling her that she had talent, courage, and a gift that deserved to be shared with the world. She felt a mixture of relief, excitement, and anticipation for what the future might hold. Over the following days, they continued to refine her songs. Each session brought new insights and improvements. The cleaner began to understand the nuances of performance, the importance of connecting with an audience, and the power of storytelling through music. The producer provided guidance, mentorship, and support, helping her navigate the technical and emotional aspects of singing. Their collaboration strengthened both her abilities and her confidence. She also began to imagine her life beyond the studio. She dreamed of performing for larger audiences, sharing her story and inspiring others through her music. The thought filled her with determination. She realized that her time as a cleaner, her quiet moments of humming and dreaming, had prepared her for this opportunity. Every hardship, every doubt had fueled her passion and shaped her voice. Now she was ready to take the next step. The producer, too, reflected on their progress. He realized that his initial mockery had been a mistake, that he had underestimated her potential. He felt gratitude for the chance to work with her, to witness her growth, and to be part of her journey. Her story reminded him that talent could emerge from unexpected places and that belief, patience, and encouragement could change lives. One evening, after a particularly long session, they stayed behind in the studio, listening to a playback of the latest recording. The cleaner closed her eyes, letting the music wash over her. She felt a sense of accomplishment, a quiet pride in what she had achieved. The producer watched her with admiration, knowing that this was only the beginning. Her voice had the power to move people, and her journey had the potential to inspire countless others. In the weeks that followed, they worked tirelessly on new songs, experimenting with different melodies and lyrics. The cleaner's confidence continued to grow, and she learned to trust her instincts, to embrace her creativity, and to perform with authenticity. The producer provided mentorship and guidance, helping her refine her skills while encouraging her to stay true to herself. Together, they created music that was heartfelt, genuine, and deeply moving. As her repertoire expanded, the cleaner began to envision a future filled with opportunities. She imagined performing for audiences who would connect with her story, sharing her music with people who might have faced similar struggles, and inspiring others to pursue their dreams. The producer encouraged her to think boldly, to embrace her talent, and to recognize the impact her voice could have on the world. Their collaboration continued to flourish. The cleaner had transformed from someone who moved quietly in the background to an artist capable of creating music that resonated with listeners. The producer had learned to appreciate the power of authenticity, the importance of mentorship, and the value of believing in someone's potential. Together, they were building a partnership based on trust, respect, and a shared love of music. By the end of part 2, the cleaner had discovered a new sense of self. She had found her voice, her confidence, and her path forward. The producer had witnessed her transformation and felt proud to be part of her journey. The story was still unfolding, and both of them knew that this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. Her talent, determination, and authenticity had set her on a path to success, and the possibilities ahead were endless. Producer, who had once been skeptical of unconventional talent, found himself advocating for her, introducing her music to trusted colleagues and sharing her story. The cleaner's name, once unknown, started to circulate in the music world. People were intrigued, not only by her talent but by her background. The story of a woman who had started as a humble cleaner and was now creating music that touched hearts. Despite the growing recognition, she remained grounded. She never let the attention change her or her approach to music. She remembered the hours spent alone in the studio, humming melodies while sweeping floors, and she carried that humility into every recording. The producer admired her for this, noting that her character was as strong as her talent. She had faced adversity, been underestimated, and yet she approached every opportunity with determination and authenticity. It was this combination that made her music so compelling. As they prepared to release her first professional track, the cleaner felt a mix of excitement and nerves. This was uncharted territory for her, a leap from the private joy of creating music to sharing it with the world. She worried about how listeners would respond, about criticism and judgment. The producer reassured her, reminding her that authenticity would always resonate, that her story and her voice had the power to inspire others. He encouraged her to focus on the music and the message, rather than the fear of how it would be received. The day of the release arrived, and the song was shared online. Within hours, it began to receive attention. Listeners commented on the raw emotion, the honesty, and the beauty of her voice. Critics praised her unique style, noting that her music was refreshing in its authenticity. The cleaner, now a singer in her own right, felt a sense of validation and joy. All the doubts, the long hours, and the hard work had led to this moment. She realized that her dreams, once distant and seemingly impossible, were becoming reality. As her music gained popularity, the producer noticed another change. He saw that his perception of success had evolved. It was no longer just about hits, fame, or wealth. It was about creating something meaningful, something that touched people's lives. Working with the cleaner had shown him that real talent could come from unexpected places, and that the courage to pursue one's dreams was as important as any skill or training. He felt grateful for the opportunity to mentor her and to be part of her journey. The studio sessions continued, now with a sense of purpose beyond individual projects. Every song, every melody was part of a larger story, a story of perseverance, discovery, and growth. The cleaner embraced each challenge, learning to navigate the complexities of the music industry while staying true to herself. She balanced her new life with her old routines, never forgetting where she came from and using her experiences to enrich her music. Through it all, the bond between the producer and the cleaner deepened. It was not just a professional relationship, but a connection built on trust, respect, and shared passion for music. He admired her resilience and creativity, and she valued his guidance and belief in her potential. Together, they were creating more than just songs. They were shaping a journey that could inspire others, proving that talent, when nurtured with patience and encouragement, could flourish in even the most unlikely circumstances. The cleaner's transformation was remarkable. She had grown from someone who moved quietly in the background to a confident artist ready to share her voice with the world. Yet she remained humble, grounded in her values and in the experiences that had shaped her. She understood that her journey was just beginning, that there would be challenges ahead, but she felt ready. She had discovered not only her talent but her own strength and determination. The producer reflected on their journey as well. He realized that his initial judgment, his mocking, had been short-sighted, and he felt gratitude for the chance to witness her growth. He understood that talent and authenticity could change lives, and that sometimes the most unexpected people could teach the most valuable lessons. Together they had created something extraordinary, a partnership that went beyond music and into the realm of human connection and mutual respect. As the months continued, the cleaner songs reached more listeners, inspiring people who had faced challenges and doubts in their own lives. Her story of perseverance resonated as much as her music, showing that dedication, courage, and authenticity could lead to transformation. The producer, once skeptical and dismissive, now stood proudly beside her, acknowledging the journey they had shared and the impact they had made together. Their collaboration was a testament to the power of believing in someone, nurturing talent, and embracing the human stories behind the music. Felt a mix of excitement and fear. It was one thing to sing alone while cleaning, another to perform in front of a producer whose opinion could change her life. She hesitated, remembering all the times she had been overlooked or underestimated, but then she thought about the melody she had hummed, the joy it had brought her, and the feeling that she could make something beautiful. She nodded slowly, agreeing to try. Over the next few weeks, they worked together in the studio. The producer guided her gently, helping her understand the equipment, showing her how to adjust her voice, how to project, and how to express emotion through music. She was a quick learner, driven by passion and curiosity. Each day she grew more confident, more comfortable with the idea that she could be more than a cleaner humming quietly in empty rooms. Her songs became richer, her voice stronger, and her performance more assured. The producer also learned from her. He learned about resilience, about finding joy in small moments, about the power of dreams even when they seem impossible. Her life had been difficult, full of challenges and sacrifices, yet she carried herself with quiet strength and optimism. Her story began to inspire him as much as her music. He realized that success was not just about talent or money or fame, but about heart, courage, and the willingness to pursue something meaningful despite obstacles. As they continued to work together, the bond between them grew. It was not a friendship in the traditional sense, but a mutual respect and understanding that transcended their different worlds. He had once mocked her, but now he saw her as an artist, a creator, a person with a voice that could touch the hearts of many. She in turn trusted him, believing that he genuinely wanted to help her achieve her dreams and not just exploit her talent. One evening, after a long day of recording, they listened to a playback of her latest song. She sat quietly, almost afraid to hear herself through the speakers. The producer played it, and the room was filled with the melody that had grown from a simple hum to a fully realized song. Her voice soared, capturing the emotions of her life, her hopes, her struggles. Tears filled her eyes as she listened, overwhelmed by the beauty of what she had created. The producer watched her, smiling quietly, knowing that he had witnessed the birth of something remarkable. He told her that this was just the beginning, that the music industry could be harsh and unforgiving, but that her authenticity was her greatest strength. She realized that the moments she had spent humming alone while cleaning had prepared her for this opportunity. The journey ahead would be challenging, but she felt ready. She had discovered her own voice, and now she had someone to help guide it into the world. As the weeks turned into months, they continued to refine her songs, exploring new melodies and harmonies, experimenting with styles and arrangements. Each session brought new discoveries, new challenges, and new triumphs. The cleaner had transformed into a singer, a creator, an artist, yet she remained humble, grounded in the experiences that had shaped her. She never forgot the simple joy of humming while working, the quiet moments that had allowed her creativity to flourish. The producer, too, had changed. He had learned to see talent where he had once only seen a job title, to appreciate the human stories behind the music, to value authenticity over perfection. Their collaboration became a testament to the power of believing in someone, of nurturing talent with patience, respect, and care. Together they were creating something that neither of them could have imagined alone. A journey that had begun with a simple hum and a moment of unexpected curiosity, a story that would touch many hearts in the days to come. From someone in her position, the cleaner sang on, unaware of the change in the room, unaware that someone powerful and influential was now paying close attention. She let her voice flow naturally, letting the melody grow and twist in ways she hadn't imagined. There was honesty in it, a reflection of her life, her struggles, her quiet hope. It was music born from experience, from resilience, from the little joys and sorrows that had shaped her. In that moment, the studio felt transformed, the sterile walls and polished surfaces replaced by something warmer, something human. For the producer, it was a revelation. He realized that talent could come from anywhere, that it could exist in unexpected places, that it didn't need to be polished or professional to touch the soul. He felt a pang of guilt for mocking her earlier, a sudden awareness that he had almost dismissed something truly remarkable. He made a silent promise to himself to pay closer attention, to see beyond the surface, to consider the possibilities that lay hidden in unexpected corners of life. The cleaner finished her song and fell silent, letting the echo fade. She adjusted her uniform, picked up her cleaning supplies, and prepared to leave. The producer remained in his office, staring at the door she had exited, feeling a mixture of awe, regret, and anticipation. He knew he had just witnessed something extraordinary, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this was the beginning of something important. Neither of them knew it yet, but the day's events had set in motion a journey that would change both of their lives forever, a journey that started with a simple melody, a humble cleaner, and a wealthy producer who had laughed too soon.